I was dying because my alpha boyfriend refused to mark me. Everyone knew it, and Omega had to complete a mate bond before turning 30. Otherwise, the moon goddess's mark inside her body would begin to rot. Every full moon would bring agony that felt like her bones were being crushed. The curse would slowly consume her life, and today, there were only 7 days left until my 30th birthday. Yet Damian Blackwood, the alpha I'd been with for 5 years, still showed no intention of becoming my mate.
If you don't mark her soon, she's really going to die. In a few more days, her moon mark will start to decay. If you still refuse to complete the mate bond with her, you might lose her forever.
Funny. When she's lying in my bed every night, she doesn't look like someone who's dying.
The terrace instantly erupted with laughter.
If she wants to stay alive that badly, she can always find another alpha. If she wants to leave, she's free to go anytime.
That night, I finally gave up on him completely. I ended the relationship, blocked his number, erased every trace of him from my life. 3 years later, we ran into each other at a market. He tossed a box of condoms into my shopping cart.
Long time no see. Got a minute?
No. I just had a baby. Damian's eyes landed on the diapers.
You completed a mate bond?
He couldn't understand how, in just 3 years, I had gone from being his ex-girlfriend to someone else's mate, and even had a child. Well, why else would I be shopping in the baby aisle? I tossed the diapers into my cart, then grabbed 2 boxes of nursing caps and added them on top. His gaze swept across the growing pile of baby supplies. Something unreadable flickered in his eyes.
You move fast. Met him on a dating app?
He knew perfectly well that what terrified me was never turning 30. It was never being chosen by him. I ignored his question. Instead, I bent down and pulled the box of condoms from beneath the pile of diapers. Here, you can have this back. He stared at my hand for a moment before finally reaching for it. The instant his fingers brushed against the ring on my left ring nick, he froze. A silver ring engraved with a crescent moon rests there. It was the most common wedding ring worn by married she-wolves, and it was a ring Damian knew all too well. 3 years earlier, at my best friend Sophia's mate ceremony, when it was time to toss the moon goddess bouquet, I deliberately stood at the very back of the crowd, as far away as possible. It didn't help. Somehow, Sophia managed to throw the bouquet straight into my arms. The entire ballroom erupted into cheers. Before I could even react, Sophia had already grabbed my shoulders and pushed me toward Damian.
Well, we've got the venue, got the moon goddess as our witness. Why not complete the mate bond while we're at it?
The hoping to witness a march ceremony. Everyone was hoping Damian would finally become my alpha, except Damian. He stood there in silence.
I didn't bring a bond ring. Let's do it another time.
Sophia clearly wasn't about to let him off the hook. Without hesitation, she slipped off her own bond ring and shoved it into Damian's hand. Use mine. You can get another one later. I was a jewelry designer. Back in college, Sophia and I had made a promise. One day, we would each design their own bond ring. And the ring she had just handed him was the one I had designed.
See? Now you've got a venue, you've got a bond ring. So what exactly are you waiting for?
No one wanted me to be happy more than Sophia did. But standing beside Damian, I could clearly see the impatience growing on his face. Then, in the very next second, he did something I would never forget. He threw the bond ring across the ballroom. The entire room fell silent. A moment later, a beta wolf caught it. Laughing, he walked over to his girlfriend, dropped to one knee, and proposed. Cheers immediately exploded through the ballroom once again. Tears streamed down the girl's face as she said yes. The couple kissed to the sound of thunderous applause.
I wish that was you.
I looked at the happy couple. My eyes burned. She hadn't caught the bouquet, and he hadn't planned to propose. There had been no preparations, no perfect timing. Yet somehow everything had happened so naturally. And in that moment, I finally understood. The problem between Damian and me had never been timing. Damian simply had never wanted to become my alpha. Fia's mate serenade lasted well into the night. The alphas drank and celebrated the arrival of a new bonded pair. And Sophia had clearly decided to get a little revenge on my behalf. She had every groomsman take turns offering Damian a drink. Damian knew exactly what she was doing. Even so, he accepted every glass. By midnight, the tips of his ears were faintly red. He left the ballroom with a few friends and headed up to the rooftop terrace of the hotel. As I walked past, the terrace door was standing open. Their conversation drifted clearly into my ears.
Seriously, man. When Arya caught the moon goddess Bafut earlier, I thought you were finally going to mark her. You really left her hanging in front of everyone? Do you have any idea how many ways she's tried to get me to complete a mate bond over the years? If I don't want a bond, what exactly is she supposed to do? Drag me to the moon goddess altar and force me through the ceremony? But she's almost 30. If this keeps up, you're going to lose her sooner or later. The curse wasn't my idea. When she's lying in my bed every night, she doesn't look like someone who's dying.
The terrace instantly exploded with laughter. The sound felt like a blade driving straight into my chest. My eyes said Damius had had to drink. I only knew that every word he spoke felt like a public humiliation. My waiting, my love, my life. None of it meant anything to him.
If she wants to stay alive that badly, she can find another alpha. I'm not stopping her. As if she'd ever leave you. Everyone knows she's crazy about you. Give it another 5s, even if the curse starts killing her, she'll still stay by your side.
Damien didn't argue. Didn't deny it either. He simply lowered his head and smiled. Everyone believed that there was no room in my heart for anyone except Damien. Everyone believed that whenever he finally decided to mark me, I would accept with tears of gratitude. But they didn't know. Many I turned 30, I'd made hadn't found my fated mate, then I would go back to him. That night, I broke up with Damien. His reaction was as calm as ever. There was even a hint of amusement in his eyes. 5 years. He had long since grown accustomed to my tears, accustomed to my compromises. He knew that eventually fact that after I always came back. And before then, he had been right, which was why he had never took my leaving serious.
Breaking up again? Just because I didn't mark you tonight? Come on, Arya. Sophia practically turned the entire moon goddess ceremony into a public marriage proposal. Was I supposed to play along?
I couldn't even be bothered to explain that it hadn't been my idea. Sophia only knew that I was running out of time. There were only 7 days left before the moon goddess's curse would begin. But none of that mattered anymore. I turned and walked into the bedroom, starting to pack my things. Damien followed me inside and leaned against the doorframe, watching me with casual indifference, as though I were a child throwing a tantrum. But when I actually zipped up my suitcase, his expression finally changed. A flicker of irritation crossed his eyes.
Arya, I'm tired of this breakup and makeup game. If you walk out that door tonight, don't ever come back asking me to mark you.
Later, I really didn't go back. And that night became the last time we ever saw each other. When I reached the parking garage, I stopped outside the shopping mall entrance and waited. A black Mercedes slowly pulled up beside me. The driver's door opened. Damon stepped out. His gaze immediately swept over me from head to toe. No shopping bags, no baby supplies, just the handbag hanging from my shoulder, one eyebrow arched.
So where did all the baby stuff go? What happened? Put everything back after I left?
He thought I had never completed a mate bond. He thought I didn't have a child. He assumed the little performance in the supermarket had been staged just for him. Just another attempt to make him jealous. Damien Blackwood was still the same arrogant, self-assured man he had always been. 3 years had changed nothing. Whether we were together back then or standing here after years apart, he always needed to have the upper hand. My husband took the bags to get the car. The amusement in his eyes deepened.
Arya, you've always been a terrible liar.
I let out a quiet sigh, partly amused, partly exhausted. He pulled open the passenger side door.
Get in. We need to talk.
I had no idea what there was left to talk about after 3 years apart. I had just opened my mouth to refuse when another car slowly pulled into the lane behind Damien's Mercedes.
Arya, hop in.
I looked up. Ethan Walker was sitting behind the wheel. Damien's entire expression darkened instantly. I walked around him and headed toward Ethan's car, but just as I was about to leave, Damien grabbed my wrist. His grip tightened. His eyes locked onto Ethan, then shifted back to me. A bitter smile appeared on his face.
Tell me, Arya, how does it feel to get back with your old flame?
Behind me, the car door flew open with a sharp thud. Ethan was already moving to get out. The last thing I wanted was for 2 alphas to face off in the middle of a parking garage. I immediately yanked my wrist free from Damien's grasp. Without looking back, I got straight into Ethan's passenger seat. Ethan turned to check on me first, making sure I wasn't hurt. Only then did he lift his gaze towards Damien. The 2 alphas locked eyes. The air between them tightened instantly. Neither said a word. A few moments later, Ethan settled back into the driver's seat and lightly tapped the horn, signaling for the cars ahead to move. With a grim expression, Damien climbed back into his Mercedes. Once his car started moving, he deliberately slowed down, driving at a painfully leisurely pace. We had no choice but to crawl along behind him. Only when we reached an intersection did Damien finally turn off onto another road. His taillights gradually disappeared into the distance. The Seattle sunset painted half the sky crimson. Ethan glanced at the rearview mirror, watching the departing car. A faint smile touched his lips.
I still remember the first time I met him and all the promises he made back then.
Ethan was my first love. We met during our sophomore year at the university. For 2 whole years, we were nearly inseparable. Life back then and beautiful. We studied together in the library, pretending to focus on our books while secretly making each other laugh. Sometimes we'd slip between the bookshelves and end up wrapped in each other's arms, stealing kisses we couldn't resist. We shared most of our meals too. He always remembered how much I loved French fries. Every time he'd slide his entire servive onto my tray. In the evenings, we'd walk through campus together, talking about our dreams, our careers, our future. No matter the topic, we never seemed to run out of things to to say. But graduation arrived, and reality pulled us apart in the end. Ethan received a job offer in Chicago, while I chose to stay and build my life in Seattle. Neither of us could abandon the future we'd worked so hard to build. In the end, we had no choice but to let each other go. The day we broke up, everything felt strangely calm. Ethan took me to my favorite Japanese restaurant. After dinner, we sat together in a quiet booth. Neither of us spoke for a long time. When we finally shared our last kiss, I tasted salt on our lips. I couldn't tell whether it was his tears or mine.
Promise me something. Find an alpha who's worthy of you. He has to be better than I am.
What if I never do?
If you reach 30 and you still haven't completed a mate bond, come back to me.
Buried against the warmth of his chest, I nodded through my tears. That breakup nearly destroyed me. It took me a long time to heal. Later, I met Damien. One night, about 3 months into our relationship, he drove me back to my apartment. We were still deep in the honeymoon phase. Neither of us wanted to say goodbye. We stayed in the car, kissing for what felt like forever. Eventually, I forced myself to get out. But the moment I looked up, I saw Ethan standing outside my apartment build. The promise we'd made about turning 30 was never supposed to come so soon. But after our breakup, Ethan had never stopped looking for me. I invited Ethan upstairs for a cup of coffee. Damien followed us in. Without hesitation, my former alpha and my current alpha sat across from one another. The living room fell into a suffocating silence. Confused, I turned toward Damien. There was still a faint smear of my lipstick at the corner of his mouth. Quietly, I handed him a tissue. Damien glanced at it, then ignored it completely. A cup of coffee, Ethan finally broke the silence.
I want us to get back together.
I stared at him in shock. Damien's head snapped up as well.
If you'll have me, I'll move back to Seattle immediately. We can start over. We can complete a mate bond.
I hadn't even processed what he'd said. Damien shot to his feet and threw a punch. It happened too fast for anyone to react. By the time I finally managed to pull them apart.
Ethan, what we had ended a long time ago. I already have a mate.
Then I walked over to Damien and carefully began treating the torn skin across his knuckles.
Does he truly love you? Can he give you everything you deserve?
With a bitter smile, he rose to his feet and headed toward the door. Before leaving, he looked back at me one last time.
If he ever hurts you, you can always come back to me. I don't care what your status is. I would Janch. He'll never get that chance. I would never hurt you. And you'll never need someone else as a backup plan.
Years later, Ethan still remembered the promises Damien had made that day. So did I. I still remembered the heat of his hand wrapped around mine. But time changes everything. The one who had sworn those promises most fiercely, the one who forgot them first. I thought our encounter at the supermarket had been nothing more than a brief interruption. I never expected Damien to show up at my jewelry studio the very next morning.
Mr. Blackwood is here to commission a custom ring.
I had worked at this studio for years. I'd met countless clients who came through our doors carrying stories they wanted immortalized in jewelry, but I had never imagined that one day I would be sitting across from Danny.
Will this ring be for everyday wear or for a mate bond ceremony?
Damien lounged back on the sofa. Dottie picked up the coffee on the table and took a casual sip.
It's for a proposal.
A strange sense of irony washed over me. Yesterday, he had tossed a box of condoms into my shopping cart. Today, he was sitting across from me, calmly ordering a bond ring. Then again, that was classic Damien. Impulsive, unrestrained, always doing exactly what he wanted. I found myself wondering which lucky woman had finally captured his attention. His gaze remained fixed on me.
Then let me be the first to congratulate you. I hope your bonding ceremony goes perfectly.
Thank you.
Among wolves, the ring exchanged during a bonding ceremony symbolizes commitment, loyalty, and an unbreakable connection. I opened my design sketchbook and began asking about their history together and her personal preferences.
She really loves a movie called About Time. The male lead can travel through time. He spends years trying to fix his mistakes, doing everything he can to hold on to the woman he loves and recover everything he lost.
The pencil froze in my hand. Something tightened painfully in my chest. Years ago, I had begged Damien over and over to watch that movie with me. Every single time, he brushed me off, said it was unrealistic, boring, not worth his time. He had never watched it with me once, and yet now, with someone else beside him, he could remember every detail.
I know the film. I'll incorporate its themes into the design. One more thing.
I'll need her ring size.
That's a problem. The proposal is supposed to be a surprise. I can't exactly bring her in to be measured. I measured her finger while she was asleep. She's about half a size larger than you.
When it came time to select the center stone, I pulled up the studio's gemstone inventory database. We currently have more than 600 certified natural gemstones available. If none of these fit your vision, we can source additional diamonds through our international partners.
No need. I brought my own.
Of course. Then I'll need to inspect the stone and add it to our records. I removed the diamond from the pouch dot and froze. I knew this diamond. 5 years earlier, I had dragged Damien to Manhattan's annual International Jewelry Exhibition. A crowd had gathered around one particular display. Inside the glass showcase rested a breathtaking 1.5-carat fancy vivid blue diamond. Its color was impossibly deep. Under the exhibition lights, blue fire danced across every facet. As a jewelry designer, I had seen extraordinary gemstones before, but this one still stole my breath away. Of course, beauty came at a price. The diamond belonged to a European collector, that the asking price was $300,000. At the time, his company had just completed its Series A funding round.
It's beautiful, but it's not really my style.
I just didn't want to become another expense on his balance sheet. And yet somehow, years later, he had bought the very stone I'd once fallen in love with. Every flash of light felt like a reminder. Even after all this time, Damien still knew exactly where to stick the knife to make it hurt the most. I almost regretted being so sensible back then. Maybe I should have let him buy the damn diamond. At least then, I wouldn't be staring at it now, wondering who would be the one wearing it. After the inspection was finished, Damien signed the gemstone custody agreement. Before leaving, he pulled out his phone. A QR code appeared on the screen.
Let's exchange contact informations. It'll make communication easier.
Custom design work involved endless details and revisions. Frequent communication was unavoidable. I had no objection. I opened my phone and scanned the code. His profile popped up immediately. Then I noticed the message at the bottom of the screen. Only then did I remember. After our breakup, I had blocked every way he could possibly reach me.
Right. I almost forgot. You blocked me.
I ignored the sarcasm, removed him from my blacklist. I'll send you the designs when they're ready. He nodded and left. Not long afterward, Sophia stopped by the studio for lunch. Aria, guess who I just saw downstairs? I swear I just saw Damien. He was here. He's commissioning a bond ring.
Wait, you're telling me Damien Blackwood came to your studio and hired you to design the ring? Has he completely lost it?
I gave Sophia a brief rundown of everything that had happened. By the time I finished, she looked ready to commit a felony.
What the hell is wrong with him? He brings the exact diamond you fell in love with years ago and asks you to design a ring for his future mate? What is he trying to prove?
You stood by him through the hardest years of his startup, 5 whole years. You never left his side. And now he's one of the most powerful alphas in the wolf territories. He has money, he has status, he has everything. And now he's turning around and making a mate bond with somebody else? What a bastard. My husband told me his business is one of the biggest in the Seattle wolf territories now. He's finally made it.
And now he's promising forever to another Omega.
Enough. It's over.
Do you really mean that?
I lowered my head and slipped the diamond certificate into my desk drawer. At least you won once. I raised in high the supermarket. You told him you'd already completed a mate bond with another alpha, and that you'd had a pup. He absolutely hated that. He saw with his own eyes that you'd moved on. He saw that you didn't need him anymore. Trust me, we won that round. I couldn't help smiling. Maybe she was right. At the very least, when we met again, I hadn't looked like the one who lost. After lunch, Sophia and I were leaving the restaurant when a woman suddenly stopped us. She was pushing a stroller with one hand and clutching her stomach with the other. Her face was flushed with discomfort. She rolled the stroller toward us. She explained that she suddenly needed to use the restroom and begged us to watch her baby for a few minutes. Neither of us had the heart to refuse. So we stayed near the restroom entrance, keeping an eye on the stroller. The woman had only been gone a short when the baby started crying loudly. Panicking, I scooped the child into my arms and tried to soothe him. Then I looked up and froze. Damien was walking toward us. Beside him stood an elegant-looking Omega. For a moment, no one spoke. Damien's gaze shifted from me to the child in my arms.
I thought you said you just had a baby.
This kid doesn't exactly look newborn.
Apparently, he thought he'd caught me in a lie. Or worse, that I've been seeing someone else before we broke up.
Well, whose fault is that? If someone had completed the mate bond when the opportunity was practically handed to him, then maybe the kid would have been older than this one by now.
Damien's expression cooled. His eyes swept across my face.
Good thing I didn't. Otherwise, I might have ended up raising someone else's child.
Damien!
The sudden shout startled the toddler, who immediately burst into tears again. I quickly grabbed Sophia's arm, stopping her before things escalated. The woman standing beside Damien touched his sleeve. She murmured something quietly. He glanced at her and gave a brief nod. Then, without another word, he turned around and walked away. A week passed. I sent the first draft of the ring design to Damien. Less than 10 minutes later, his response arrived. I wasn't surprised. Revisions were part of the job. But the project quickly turned into a nightmare. Every version I sent came back covered in criticism. By the time the 12th design was rejected, I finally lost my patient. Mr. Blackheld, the differences between these versions are practically non-existent. The finished rings would look almost identical. His reply appeared almost instantly.
This is a bond ring for a mate bond ceremony. It has to be perfect.
I stared at the message. Speechless. After all, the studio owner had already warned me. Damien was paying triple our standard custom design fee. No matter how demanding he was, we were expected to accommodate him. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, then reopened my design software. Fine. I'd keep revising it until he was satisfied. Several weeks later, Damien was having dinner with a few alpha friends at an upscale Japanese restaurant in downtown Seattle. Halfway through the meal, he stepped outside to take a phone call. On his way back, the door to a private dining room nearby wasn't completely closed. He saw Ethan. Ethan was seated across for a woman. Every now and then, Ethan reached across the table and placed food onto her plate.
Arya, is this the man you married?
He remained there for a long moment, his jaw tightened. Then he turned and walked to his own private room. The moment he sat down, he poured himself a large glass of sake. Then another, and another. His friends were talking. He didn't hear a single word. Suddenly, he shot to his feet, then kicked open the door to Ethan's private room. The crash echoed through the restaurant.
What the hell are you doing? You're bonded to Arya. You have a pup together. You swore you'd do anything for her.
By the time Damien's friends rushed in, Ethan had already been knocked to the floor.
You idiot.
Arya never completed a mate bond with me. When I proposed to her, she turned me down.
That same night, I sent Damien another revised ring design drawing. For the first time ever, his reply came back immediately. Perfect. No further changes needed. 2 months later, the ring was finally finished. I contacted Damien. He showed up at the studio that very afternoon. The completed ring rested inside a black velvet box. He studied it for a moment, then slid the box across the desk.
Try it on for me. Let's see how it looks.
After a brief hesitation, I opened the box and slipped the ring on my left ring finger. It fit perfectly. Summer always made fingers swell slightly. The ring had originally been made half a size larger than mine, and yet somehow it fit me exactly. Happy now? He didn't answer, just kept staring at the ring on my finger, for so long that I started feeling uncomfortable.
Do you like it?
You should be asking your girlfriend that. I began twisting the ring, preparing to remove it.
Don't. You don't have to take it off.
What?
Because it was never made for someone else.
For a moment, neither of us moved.
I deliberately made it half a size larger, so it would still fit you during the summer. I never had another Omega. The woman you saw was just a project manager from one of our partner companies.
I stared at him, my thoughts spinning. Damien, what are you trying to say?
When Ethan proposed to you, why didn't you say yes?
3 years ago, Ethan heard from Sophia and she is struggling and I had broken up. He learned about the moon goddess's curse hanging over me. Learned that I was facing it alone. Without hesitation, he came to Seattle. He appeared before me, dropped to one knee, and proposed. For a moment, I truly wavered. Ethan had been the great love of my youth, kind, steady, everything anyone could ask for in a mate. He knew about the 5 years I'd spent with Damien. He knew my moon mark was slowly decaying. He knew the curse could kill me, and none of it mattered to him. But love cannot be forced. The years had changed us both. The feelings we'd once shared belonged to another lifetime. The tenderness, the excitement. None of it could ever return exactly as it had been. I couldn't accept a proposal simply because I was afraid. I couldn't choose the partner I'd spend the rest of my life with just to escape a curse. I knelt down, gently closed the ring box he was holding, and turned him down, softly but firmly. I didn't want to use a love that had already ended as a convenient answer to fate, or as an excuse to settle for a life that wasn't truly mine.
Why are you wearing a ring? And why did you lie to me that day at the supermarket?
Because I didn't want to stay tangled up with you anymore. I was a jewelry designer. If I wanted a ring, I could make one for myself, and that was exactly what I'd done. Years ago, Sophia and I had promised each other that one day we'd wear rings we designed ourselves. She fulfilled that promise through her mate bond, and I fulfilled it on my own. I didn't need someone else anymore to write the ending of my story. Damien, if you're doing all this because you're angry, it's time to let it go. I explained what had really happened at the supermarket. That day, Ethan and I had simply been visiting his sister after she gave birth to a pup. Running into Damien had been pure coincidence. The story about a mate bond, the story about having a child. It had all been a lie meant to close the door on the past once and for all. Ethan had understood exactly what I was trying to do, and played along. I thought that would finally create the distance I needed. Instead, Damien had gone out and found the blue diamond, then asked me to design a bond ring for his so-called soulmate.
You really think I did all of this to get back at you?
I removed the blue diamond ring from my finger and placed it back into the velvet box. Didn't you? You brought me the diamond I wanted years ago, and asked me to design a bond ring for another woman. For the first time, his expression cracked.
At first, maybe. When I saw you with Ethan in that parking garage, I thought he was the reason you never came back. But Arya, I've been waiting for you for 3 years. 1 year after we broke up, I tracked down the dealer from that jewelry exhibition.
But the original blue diamond was gone. I searched everywhere for one like it. It took me months to find this one.
This isn't the same diamond. The laser inscription doesn't match the original certificate. Damien, the original diamond is gone, just like we are. I had waited for him, year after year, waiting for him to choose a mate bond, waiting for a bond ring, waiting for a future before the curse found me. But somewhere along the way, the love I'd been waiting for disappeared. The night he threw Sophia's bond ring across the ballroom, he threw away our future too. There are no tunnels through time. Not in real life. Some things, once they're lost, are gone forever. Damien refused to take the ring back, so I had my assistant ship it to his office. The next day, it came back. I sent it again. It came back again. After the third attempt, I gave up. Sophia stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows in my office, looking down at the familiar black Sadies below. This is unbelievable.
At my mate ceremony, he tossed my bond ring halfway across the ballroom without a second thought. And now? Now he's practically camping outside your studio just to make sure you keep this one.
What the hell is wrong with Damien Blackwood? I didn't answer. Sophia walked over to my desk and picked up the velvet box. She flipped it open and examined the ring beneath the light. Then she frowned. Wait, there's an inscription inside. She brought the ring closer to her eyes. What language is that? Greek? Latin, the ancient common language of the wolf clans. What does it mean? Come back to me.